Hello! Hey, everybody. Welcome. What a week. To another edition of the Media Boat Podcast, Marooned Edition. It is somehow June 3rd,
We made
2020.
it to we made it to June, guys.
June. Can you believe that? When we
Yep.
were
June gloom everywhere.
starting these marooned podcasts, it was March. March.
It was literally the week after your birthday.
It was the third month of the year, and now it is the sixth month of the year. We are halfway nearly through
Whoa.
2020, and we haven't been able to do anything in 2020.
That being said, we have watched a lot of TV and listened to a lot of music.
Yeah, we've done a lot of things, and a lot of things are happening. To start the show, I just want to briefly say, one, I guess I should do the intros first. We're Media About Podcast. We're a podcast about the media, movies, music, video games, and television, not necessarily in that order. My name is Matt. His name is Mike.
I'm Mike. He's Matt. We've been doing this for, I think this is 231 now, episode 231.
Yeah, something like that. Just as kind of an intro, if you guys have not been paying it, I'm sure everyone listening to this knows the drill. Over the last week, there has been unrest, there has been protests, there have been riots, there has been a huge outpouring of support, and all of it kind of stems from the Black Lives Matter movement, a movement that we here, of course, at the Media Boat Podcast are fully behind and supportive of, and the ongoing police brutality that seems to be laser targeted at the Black members of our community. So our show this week is going to be full of news that was directly affected by these protests and by the unrest. We'll be bringing it up multiple times. What I will say before we go into the podcast proper is that if you are behind the right for these people to protest, if you believe in the need for equality and justice for these deaths, I strongly advise everybody listening to this, if you have not already, to donate to causes, whether it be the Black Lives Matter organization themselves or the NAACP or any local and national bail funds, funds being funded to help bail people who have been arrested on the front lines of these protests. Any of those things, if you have the means to, I know it's tough financially right now in a pandemic, and if you can't actually go to the protests, which I know a lot of you who live with, say, immunocompromised people or who work with immunocompromised people cannot actually attend, donating is the thing you can do. So by all means, if you can, please consider donating. It makes a world of difference, and it's for a good cause. So with that all said, let's move straight into the podcast where we talk about fun stuff. Well, maybe not this week, but generally speaking.
Generally, we talk about fun stuff. This, as you mentioned, this episode is going to be dominated by one topic in particular.
Yeah.
But that's not to say we won't have other not I don't say actual news, but good news, other news.
Yeah, in the TV section, I'll get to talk a little bit about my first week of impressions with HBO Max. So we'll get there in just a moment. But first, movies. And we go into movie news. Our first story, starting right up with a story related to the events of the past week. The production studio Bad Robot, that of course being J.J. Abrams' joint, brought to you such fine entertainment such as the Star Wars movies people kind of like, and the Star Trek movies most people don't like.
So fine movies is a relative term?
Yeah, I guess so. Depends on who you ask.
It's
I
okay.
don't have a problem with those Star Trek movies. I like them. Anyway, Bad Robot announced a pledge of $10 million over 5 years to various organizations. For starters, they will donate $200,000 each to the following groups: Black Lives Matter LA, Black Futures Lab, Community Coalition, the Equal Justice Initiative, and the Know Your Rights Camp. Bad Robot Productions and the Katie McGrath and J.J. Abrams Family Foundation announced charitable donations to a number of organizations that are, quote, committed to anti-racist agendas. Quote, enough is enough, the statement began. Enough police brutality, enough outsized privilege, enough polite conversation, enough white comfort. So yeah, good news, and that's a lot of money coming to the way of these organizations from people who can afford to give.
Yeah, that's if you're keeping track, that's a total of $1 million of an initial donation, with $9 million coming over the next 5 years.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of the week, one of the one of the hopeful things coming out of all this is the outpour of donations from these large companies, whether it be J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot, or today I saw the Lego Corporation is going to give $4 million to different activism funds. The Pokemon Company came out and said that they'll be donating 100,000 each to the NAACP and Black Lives Matter. Which I don't know, if you're one of the biggest entertainment franchises in the world, you could probably give more than 100,000, but that's another story. Anyway, also notable this week, the Nike and Adidas accounts on Twitter communicated with each other for the first time ever in their brand's history. Known rivals, Nike and Adidas. So that happened. So
Stuff's
yeah,
coming together.
people are coming together. I think that, maybe be a little skeptical of the brands and make sure that they're doing make the right choices. It's not all good, but the fact
AKA see Wendy's.
Wendy's, Burger King. Anyway, but yeah, so like any money is good towards these organizations. So I'm glad that the needle is moving a little bit.
Yep.
Oh,
But this still does not apologize for the disaster that was The Last Jedi. Looking at you, Bad Robot.
I like The Last Jedi. You're thinking of Rise of Skywalker.
That's what I'm thinking, The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, you said
Well, because Last Jedi is the last film that actually ended.
Anyway, our second story has nothing to do with the protests.
No.
It has to do with Netflix doing the thing that we thought they were going to do, which is buy a historic theater in Los Angeles.
So we already reported on Netflix buying a old theater on Broadway in New York. Well, now they're doubling down and doing it in LA.
Yes, they have finalized a deal to buy Hollywood's historic Egyptian theater for an undisclosed price, closing a transaction that had been in the works for more than a year. The acquisition represents a major milestone in Netflix's effort to become part of the Hollywood filmmaking community. The Egyptian theater will remain the home of the American Cinematheque, and the organization's curation team will continue to autonomously program content over the weekend. Netflix said it will invest in the theater's renovation and will use the facility for special events, screenings, and premieres during the weeks. The Egyptian Theater was opened, by the way, in 1922 by Sid Grauman on Hollywood Boulevard. The facility was closed in 1992, though, and the American Cinematheque purchased the Egyptian from the city for $1. That's $1.
That was so. Yeah.
What?
It's literally the next line. I was going to jump you there.
Yeah. With the provision that this historical landmark would be restored to its original grandeur. In 2016, the Egyptian Theater was retrofitted to begin screening 35mm nitrate film and is now only one of 4 theaters in the United States capable of showing that fragile and flammable film stock. Renovations by Netflix will include upgrading the equipment at the theater.
Yep. Also gives them a foothold of, showing their own films in LA area.
Yeah, this is a good move because obviously it's self-promoting. They needed this to participate in the LA and New York rule that the Academy had.
Yes.
But this also is a hearts and minds move because, yeah, it's renovating and updating a Los Angeles treasure.
It's a showmanship of good faith that, hey, we're going to renovate and update this historic landmark. See, We're just like you guys. We appreciate cinema in Old Town Hollywood. But yeah, good movie overall.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not really going to matter until people can go to the Egyptian again. So when stuff starts opening up again, maybe we'll hear more about this.
Right. And who knows if they franchise the name The Egyptians. And then they, because Netflix has money, buy the Bengals soundtrack so you can walk like an Egyptian to the Egyptian theater.
No. Moving on.
Moving on. Okay.
You watched a movie that I understand.
watched a movie.
You watched a movie that I understand came out in calendar year 2020.
Yes, and I watched this movie because this is also part of movie news. It's free.
Okay.
Just Mercy, starring new book favorite Michael B. Jordan and personal favorite Brie Larson.
So the movie is named Mercy?
Just Mercy.
So it's Just Mercy?
Yeah, it's Just Mercy.
No, I know. It's Just Mercy is the name of the movie. Okay, so Michael B. Jordan and Brie Larson are in a room. What happens?
Michael B. Jordan is a lawyer from Harvard who goes down to Alabama and starts up a nonprofit organization to help inmates on death row. One of these cases is also me about favorite Jamie Foxx. And it's about his case being overturned throughout the judicial system. We reported on this thing a while ago. I think back when it was first announced. I think you remember talking about this because this was the first film for Michael B. Jordan's production company.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yes. And he's also a producer on this thing. So the reason this was made free, and by the way, it's free for all of June as a rental on all streaming sites. So like Google, iTunes, Amazon Prime, Hulu, I think. I don't know. But yeah, if you're available to see it, it is a fine movie. I think I understand the reason why they made it free. But at the same time, there are other films that have been made that are more impactful than this film. While this does delve heavily into the judicial system and, wrongly convictions and trying to get those convictions overturned, especially in a state like Alabama, it can be tough, but can be done. It is also something that I think has been done, I don't want to say better, but more memorable in other films.
Yeah.
Like Black Klansman, like Detroit, like The Green Mile.
Hell, like To Kill a Mockingbird.
Like To Kill a Mockingbird, which they reference heavily.
Yeah, I bet.
That film.
I bet.
Like in the first act, they dropped that name like 3 times.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's going to be this kind of film.
I get what you're saying. It's like, it's a good, like, entertaining version of that story, but it's not going to win an Academy Award. It's not a home run. It's just like...
But it is like Green Book, though.
Down the middle. No, if something like Green Books wins this year in the year 2020, after all of this, I give up on the Oscars.
Well, that's the thing, because I think Just Mercy came out to try and qualify for last year's Academy Awards by coming out in select theaters at the end of the year so they could qualify.
And nobody cared then. So
nobody cared then. Nobody
will care now.
Right. But it is free. It is out there available to watch.
Well, here's hoping that this at least helped Michael B. Jordan, to be specific. I mean, he's not Michael Jordan. It's just he's a very specific kind of Michael Jordan.
Yeah, just like we're talking about movies, and you say Michael Jordan, and you automatically think of the Michael Jordan that came first. Yeah,
not the star of Space Jam, which is a movie. Contrary to popular belief, Space Jam is a movie.
Right, and not a documentary.
Not a documentary. Could you imagine? Anyway, yeah, Michael B. Jordan. This might hopefully give him the more, give him the foothold he needs to get some real great scripts in there to make some real great movies under his label. So we'll see.
But yeah, oh, that's all another one starring Michael B. Jordan. A film that I think is better or done better
Okay.
is Fruitvale Station.
Oh well, yeah,
Well, one is directed by Gary F. Gray.
yeah.
Wait, was it Gary F. Gray? Was it? Yeah, it was Gary F. Gray. No,
I don't remember.
no, I'm thinking of who did Black Panther?
Oh, ah, what's
Yeah,
his name?
that name's escaping me now. It's like right. It's that name on the tip of my tongue.
Um, yeah, it's freaking
Ryan Coogler.
yeah, Ryan Coogler. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Google.
The front page of Google when I googled it did not give me his name. The producer is there, but not director.
Did you search director?
No.
Oh, that's why. But yeah, Fruitvale Station, I think, is a better film to show current injustice than Just Mercy. But Just Mercy also just came out.
Just
Just saying.
just saying.
Yep.
Anyway, anything else in the movie world you want to talk about? Because I didn't watch any 2020 movies.
No, I did not. So let's move on ahead.
Move right in to the TV section, and we start TV, of course, with sports. So, sports is kind of the same place it was last week. We were talking about rumblings of there being
A deal
returns,
possibly being made.
deals possibly being made. Baseball, little update on the MLB situation. The Players Association has now sent a counter offer to the owners about what they're going to be paid if the truncated season happens.
Yeah, they also sent the offer for a 116 game season, but
Mm-hmm.
now the MLB owners are talking about doing an 80 game season
Yeah,
and possibly not even sending a counter proposal, just saying, well, if you didn't accept this, then we're just not going to have a season
yeah.
because
So
revenue of lost ticket sales and merchandising.
so it's still all up in the air. That pop fly still hasn't come down. So we're waiting still until we figure out if there's going to be baseball at all.
Yes.
Meanwhile, if you want to see some baseball, I streamed some MLB 19, the show, this past weekend.
Yeah, I saw you go live.
It's archived on YouTube if you want to check out me playing an hour's worth of pitching for the Angels. I'm doing okay. I started doing the since you didn't watch it. I started doing the dynamic difficulty setting, so that way it'll get harder the better I do.
Oh no.
No, I actually was doing great. I topped out. I almost got to All Star. I was in Veteran Plus. I almost got to All Star until I gave up one home run and was sent all the way back down to rookie. I was like, Jesus Christ, they're so picky.
No, just off of one home run.
One home run. Like you go down like half the meter if you get one hit.
Well, are you a starting pitcher? You're a starting pitcher, right?
No, I'm relief now. I was
Oh,
starting
that's
last
why.
season. I'm relief now.
And that's why, because you're a relief. You're not supposed to give up any hits. You're supposed to come in
Yeah.
and shut everyone down.
I'm just like, I'm sorry, I'm not the best pitcher of all time. Like, I
You
don't know
mean
what to
Hall of
tell
Famer
you.
Mariano Rivera, 100% voted in to the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my ERA. Yes, it's under 1, but I'm sorry, it's not 0.25 like it was when I was playing in beginner difficulty. I'm sorry, I'm at like 0.52 now, guys. I'm sorry, that's so bad. I'm still the best in the league. in the digital 2020 season. I am still the best. I have the most strikeouts league wide. Thank you.
That's how it should be.
Anyway,
Anyways.
so baseball's still happening in my heart is what I'm trying to say. Meanwhile, basketball is looking at July 31st to start their truncated version of the season, which is basically just the playoffs.
Kind of. So the deal, so this was like posted last Friday. And some more details actually came out today.
Okay.
And I should have kind of made this the first story, but other stuff is more pressing because this is still speculation. And we don't
Okay.
really deal in speculation. But as the news stands right now, they are looking to bring in 22 teams to Orlando, Florida. Basically, if your team was over 30 games back from the first place, you're eliminated automatically. Just now, you're just not coming back.
Okay.
You're set into draft lottery hell. Whereas the remaining 22 teams will play, every team will play 8 games over the course of 2 weeks to finalize basically simulate the rest of the season and to be who's 1 through 8 in seeding brackets. This would mean that they'll play the NBA playoffs as normal in Orlando, Disney Worldwide World of Sports.
Okay.
No fans. And there we will have the NBA finals or playoffs into finals, which would end October 12th. Now, here's the thing about it ending on October 12th. The next season's supposed to start October 22nd. Maybe.
They're going to have to push that back.
Right, because there's rumblings of it being pushed back to a Christmas start date for the next season.
Okay.
Which, NBA on Christmas is a big deal. They usually have 6 games running that day. So that would make sense, NBA Christmas. Merry Christmas to all.
Yeah. And to
But
all
they also noted that if they can't get everyone there by July 31st, then they're just going to scrap the playoffs altogether.
Okay. Which, when you're butting up almost against the opener of the next season, then to me that's a sign where you should just be like, I don't know, who had the best record? All right, they're champs now.
Right. I mean, plus everyone's had 3 months off to rest and heal.
Yeah.
And for some people, get out of shape.
Oh, I'm sure. For some people, just sit on their couch watching TV.
No, not watching. They've been playing NBA 2K.
Yeah, there we go.
Tournaments.
It's kind of like watching tape, right?
It's mental basketball.
It's mental basketball. I like it. Do you think the baseball players are home playing mental baseball too?
No, because even that's a slog.
Ha ha ha. Oh, ho, 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 ho.
Anyways, yeah, we'll have that NBA announcement by tomorrow because they have a league-wide Zoom meeting happening, I think, noon Eastern tomorrow. So we will know by the end of the week whether or not we will have NBA this year.
Exciting.
But also this means that if we do, that everyone's going to be flying down to Florida to Disney World.
Right.
They'll have one hotel completely quarantined for just player, staff, media, personnel, everything. And also, from what I read, they'll be having one golf course for them to, go out and relax on, but still maintain that social distancing.
Yeah.
Because those parameters are still in order.
Whew. Well, that's going to be weird. And I'm looking forward to hearing what they decide. All right. Lastly, in the sports news that you have here is something about Rob Gronkowski. But I have a question.
Answer.
You wrote it in a way where I don't know whether this is about his football career or if this is about wrestling.
Wrestling.
Okay, this is wrestling, Gronk. Okay. Go for it. You tell me what this means.
Yes. Oh, so because Rob Gronkowski is coming back to the Buccaneers this year, he kind of had a dilemma where he was currently the WWE 24/7 champion as per this past WrestleMania. Well, he needed to lose that title somehow.
Okay.
So, cue a wrestler tell me if this is like the most like WWE wildest thing ever.
Okay.
A wrestler dressed up as a gardener tending to Gronk's lawn in the front yard where Gronk and his friend is like, hey, Gronk's like, I'm the WWE 24/7. No one's going to take this away from me. Life is good. And his friend rips off his jacket, showing a WWE ref jersey. It said, goes on his phone, ding ding, and then the guy rips off his costume and runs and tackles Gronk for the pin to reclaim the 24/7 title.
But who gets it? That
The Gardner wrestler guy.
yeah, but is that person a known wrestler?
Yes.
Okay.
He
See,
was costuming.
You skipped that step.
Oh, yeah, you must skip that step. Yes, he was costuming as Gronk's Gardner.
Got it. Okay. Weird. Wrestling's weird. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, I mean, I know it's weird. They had to simulate a car crash in order to up the stakes, so to give a reason why two of the wrestlers couldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Forced writing is the best.
Anyways,
what
else going on in the world of sports before we wrap up the sports section?
We have 2 days of NASCAR this weekend, and that's about it.
That's about it.
No current news on the NHL situation yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as for colleges, college athletics, the NCAA has tentatively set a date for players to resume training on campus facilities.
Mm-hmm.
But this also requires the actual campus to be open
Yes.
for that to happen.
Yeah. That would be a problem. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out, of course, on that wide world of sports. I realize that that's a registered trademark. And we'll give you updates as they happen. But for now, let's move into television news.
Other news that's not sports.
Yeah. So our first story is about Viacom, technically Viacom CBS, the entity that now exists that combines both Viacom and CBS, hence the name.
Yes, the merged entity.
Yes, how they reacted to the week's protests. They, specifically their entertainment brands, which includes MTV, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, Paramount Network, BET, Pop TV, CMT, VH1, Logo, and the Smithsonian Channel, as well as their CBS Sports channels, will cease programming for exactly 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I'm guessing this happened on Tuesday. Yesterday.
Monday.
On Monday. To protest the death of George Floyd, the man whose death is seen as the spark of these protests and this movement. I didn't necessarily mention that up front because it's bigger than just him.
It's bigger than just one person, yes.
But yes, it's certainly important that we do mention George Floyd here. In an internal memo, Viacom CBS's president of entertainment and youth brands, Chris McCarthy, announced last Sunday that all the aforementioned platforms will be going dark for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, which is significant because that was the time that George Floyd was killed by that officer. The time will not only serve as a tribute to Floyd, but a tribute to all of those who have been victims of racism. This is quoting the story here, including Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and countless others. Viacom CBS also went dark in 2018 for 17 minutes in solidarity with the National School Walkout to honor the 17 students of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, who died. The Parkland shooting. Nickelodeon also released a scrolling video which contains language from the Kids' Bill of Rights, which the network first put together on June 7th, 1990. It began with the statement this time, Nickelodeon is going off the air for 8 minutes and 46 seconds in support of justice, equality, and equal rights. They've also, since then, done the same kind of statements via their social media networks channels as well.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of social media network channels have followed this.
Yeah. So yeah, things like this were happening across the board on both Monday and more significantly on Tuesday. A lot of industries took place in what they called the National Blackout or Blackout Tuesday yesterday. I'll get to more about that, or we will get to a story later about that. But yeah, this is interesting, and I want to get kind of your interpretation about how this all was happening. So that's, or maybe I'll wait and talk about that when we get there later. But anyway, it's been interesting to see how the different brands have been reacting to this. But we'll get to what I want to talk about in the music section. Anyway, moving on to other television news. It's not just brands that are getting in on this. Some people, individuals, are also trying to do what they can to help, including comedian Nick Offerman. He has put 3 of his comedy specials for sale on his website, with 100% of the proceeds going to America's Food Fund. The specials include the debut of a new special that he's titled Full Bush, described on the site as a, quote, brand spanking new, never before seen broadcast special about the manners by which we modern Americans might pursue a lifestyle that can only be described as full bush. Also on offer, 2019 Summer of 69 No Apostrophe, which was his collaboration with his wife Megan Mullally, described as an entirely melodic and ribald pageant which might give you some chuckles and, more importantly, inspire some romance in your life. And his 2014 special American Ham, Offerman's first special, that includes his 10 tips for delicious living. All of these are available just for $5 to rent or $11/$11.99 to purchase.
Yep. And 100% of those proceeds go to feeding America's Food Fund.
America's Food Fund, yeah. It's good timing for that, because it's not only these, the protest movement, but it's also the COVID-19 pandemic. All of this has kind of caused shortened food supplies for people who need it the most right now. So, important time to donate. So, hey, go check out Nick Offerman. He's a funny dude.
Yep, and get some funny material out of it too. You're not going away empty-handed.
Side note: I saw a rare young, inexperienced Nick Offerman yesterday when I was watching an season 4 episode of Gilmore Girls. Like a rare 2002 Nick Offerman was spotted, and I was like, "This is weird. He looks so young, still full beard and everything." But anyway,
we were watching Knocked Up the other day, and looking at all these comedians popping in and out.
Yeah,
like Adam's, yeah, like all like who they eventually came to be, like Adam Scott, Ken Jeong, Bradley Cooper, Mike Weld.
All right, television thoughts. You watched some television this week. I watched some television this week. What did you watch?
Well, let's start with the big thing that happened this past weekend, the SpaceX shuttle launch.
Yeah.
Did you watch this?
No, God, no. I was busy watching and paying attention to way more important things.
Oh, yeah. So are we. But then CNN decided to cut over for 4 hours to document this.
Mm-hmm.
People
were very excited that we sent a rocket into space.
We did it.
I was not one of
them.
Or
rather, SpaceX did it.
Sure, yes.
Yes. It was a whole big deal, whole big spectacle. No challengers happening here.
Good.
They docked. Is considered a commercial success, a viable success, and renewed a lot of people's hope in space travel / exploration, I saw.
Cool. I mean, all well and good, but man, the timing of this could not have been worse.
Well, it was supposed to happen like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But then got weather delayed.
If it had happened 2 weeks ago, I feel like the conversation would be different. One, it would be focused on the fact that they were able to do it. I think what muddies the waters a little bit is not only the political protesting happening this week, but also the fact that SpaceX's own Elon Musk is, hadn't had the greatest 2020 statement-wise and just like freaking life-wise. And just
or baby naming-wise.
Exactly. He's been in the public eye a little much.
Yeah, yeah. Like it did feel like a big commercial for SpaceX, but at the same time, it happened. They did it. But other stuff happened.
Other stuff happened.
Yeah.
Indeed. What else did you watch on television?
I watched, or at least what was released and started watching, The Big Fib on Disney Plus.
Okay, what is the big fib?
The Big Fib is basically to tell the truth, but with kids.
Okay.
It's supposed to, or it's branded as teaching kids to spot lies and to basically spot fake news and not, and like how to determine like who's telling the truth and who's not. But it's basically to tell the truth, but with kids. They set it up with two different topics, like the first one being the goofy one, and the second one being like, okay, here's like two act, like the first one's like, oh, we dressed this one person up to like immediately like over exaggerate everything, so you like clearly it's not them. Like if it was like talking about like a scuba diver, like you have someone coming out in a full scuba suit with everything, like talking about like how they like know everything there is about scuba, whereas you have like an actual like scuba instructor standing next to them in plain clothes. It's like
That reminds me of Figure It Out,
a little bit, yeah,
Nickelodeon game show.
yeah. And then what's like the fake gag one is out of the way, then they bring out like two actual people in normal clothes, and they proceed to like answer questions, and you're supposed to like figure out, oh, who's telling the truth. I guess more like it is to tell the truth. Isn't that also a show?
So it's to tell the truth. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
We got there eventually.
we got there. It's one of those.
It's one of those. Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's hosted by Yvette Nicole Brown and Bruce Darcy, I think is his
Okay,
name.
something like that.
And it's Darcy. It's either Darcy or something, or like Bruce Darcy.
Anyway,
I know it's Darcy, but I forget if it's Darcy's last name or his first name. But he plays like a robot, and it's super annoying. But also, the thing is super geared towards kids, so I'm not
yes,
that annoyed with it.
for children.
It is definitely geared towards children.
Anyway,
Anyways,
and
yeah.
lastly,
Lastly, I watched the other ESPN 30 for 30 documentary
yeah.
for the past 2 weeks. Lance.
Okay, so before you give your take, I did not watch this, even though
Okay.
I had said that I was probably going to after the last dance. I just ended up just not being able to because of just crazy scheduling stuff.
Yes.
So I've missed this entirety, in its entirety. Like, did I miss much?
No, but it was a
Yeah.
weird juxtaposition between The Last Dance because clearly with The Last Dance, Michael Jordan ran that show. It was the Michael Jordan show, and clearly there was a narrative he was trying to get across.
Uh,
Whereas with Lance, I didn't really get that. Also, cycling in itself, not that popular of a sport. So most people were
yeah.
like, oh, Lance Armstrong, he just won Tour de France and then admitted to cheating. That's basically like most everyone's knowledge of Lance Armstrong and
Much.
like the Livestrong brand.
Yes.
So it goes into depth about like cycling, but when you bring out people who you don't know and say like, oh yeah, this was his teammate, I'm just sitting there like, yeah, okay, sure, I believe you. And because I have no basis for this, and I think most people have no basis for it, other than the creme de la creme that is the Tour de France and Lance Armstrong winning, and then the whole Oprah interview.
Hmm.
But also, it's weird because there's not so much a narrative driven doc, but rather like, here's the facts of what happened, here's how they all played out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I lied. Yes, I was taking drugs, but then again, literally everyone in the top half was taking drugs, and here's how we all did it. And here's how we all got away with it.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I didn't care enough to go seek it out was because I feel like this story's been told already. Like, hasn't there? I could have sworn there was already a documentary about this.
Well, there was the whole Oprah interview, but yeah, it
Hmm.
didn't feel like anything new, big, or bombshell was captivating in it. It was kind of like, here's Lance Armstrong, unabashed, telling you his story. And I don't know if it was like the direction of it, but it was like, okay, you're hitting you with these facts and stuff that happened, but at the same time, it's not enthralling enough to be interested in.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, no, that makes sense. So the next one is the Bruce Lee one.
Yes, be water.
So will you be watching that?
Yes, I'll be watching that. That's this upcoming Sunday.
All right. So I guess we'll looking forward to hearing about that one.
Yep.
Non-stop sports documentaries. Even though this one's, I don't know if you could call a documentary about Bruce Lee a sports documentary.
I'm not sure if it's going to be a documentary about him in the sport, because from what I read, it's about him coming to America, being rejected by Hollywood, and then going back and Hong Kong, I think,
Okay.
China or Hong Kong, and then
Yeah,
basically like becoming like the big star over there.
yeah. It seems like it's a weird fit for ESPN,
It is,
but hey,
but I don't know. There's got to be a good story there somewhere.
maybe they'll figure out a way to shoehorn in sports into it. Like, oh, he was so talented with his body, and like, oh, physical, strength and all this stuff. I'm sure that they can figure it out. Anyway,
There have been weirder 30 for 30s.
I bet there have. So, my story is that HBO Max happened.
Yes. So, what are your thoughts on the big purple HBO Max?
So, overall, I think that it has made in my opinion, better first impression than I think that Disney Plus did.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got a solid lineup of all sorts of things. It doesn't have everything you'd want, but it has just enough in each of the categories, whether it be Cartoon Network stuff, Turner Classic Movies, the HBO stuff, of course, is all there. The Studio Ghibli movies, like anything that they advertise that they would have, they pretty much have, with like a handful of exceptions. And yeah, the variety alone is enough for me to be like, hey, if you like any of this stuff, it's worth checking out. um there's enough stuff that like everybody in my household found something that they would want to watch, which is saying a lot considering there's a lot of differing tastes happening here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like it's pretty impressive, I think, the lineup that they got at launch. That being said, is it worth $15 a month? That's going to depend. It's going to depend on how much you like old shit, because the new shit is lacking. So if you look at their homepage right now under original content, there's like 6 icons because they're not really going hard on original stuff. There's a couple things for kids. There's that Omo late night show. There's a kids crafting reality show called Craftopia.
Right.
For the adults, there is I guess a Paul Feig produced Anna Kendrick show called Love Life, which I watched 11 minutes of and did not like. So that's for somebody, I suppose, but it's not for me. There's the original Looney Tunes cartoons, which I watched all of and can say that they're very well made. They're very, very good. If you like the classic Looney Tunes cartoons, but want to see them made by people who grew up watching them, but also grew up with like 90s animation, it's like a good like combination of those two things working like running on all cylinders. Like it's got the classic Looney Tunes like characters and like pacing to it, and a lot of the visual style is borrowed heavily, but it's also got a lot of those like Ren and Stimpy style takes, and like the animation quality is like top notch. I don't think I've seen a cartoon look this good in years. They clearly put they gave like them a huge budget to use here. Even though everything's digital, it looks hand drawn. That's how good this stuff is.
Wow.
It looks incredible. Like it's like seriously some of the best animation. So like I think I was talking to Christy, friend of the show, Christy, about this. I don't remember, but it's almost like the last decade of like television, like the renaissance of television animation that we've seen since like 2010 was all leading up to this moment where it's all these creators finally got to make the thing they wanted to make, which was a Looney Tunes cartoon. And yeah, it's super, super good. Some of them are better than others, but hey, you could say the same thing about the original run of Looney Tunes too. But all but they're shorts for all of the favorites. So you get your Sylvester Tweety, you get your Bugs Bunny, you get your Daffy Duck, you get your Porky Pig, and you get your Roadrunner and Coyote. So it's like all the boxes are checked. They made sure to do all the classic fan favorites. And yeah, they did them justice. So yeah, if you have any nostalgia at all for Looney Tunes, I definitely recommend you check them out. And they're all up there all at once. There's 11 episodes, and each of the 11 is two full length shorts, so like 7-8 minutes each, and then like interstitials in between. So yeah, it's a lot of content.
Right.
So yeah, I recommend that.
All right, yeah, we had some trouble logging in.
As everybody else did, yes.
As everyone else did, yeah. So I haven't really fully checked it out, but I will be getting to that this weekend. That is basically my project to get done. And then I'll have HBO Max along with everything because we pay for Spectrum.
Yeah, cool.
And we get it with Spectrum. So yeah,
I ended
HBO
up
Max will be coming to us.
Yeah, I ended up getting it a la carte by itself. I didn't go through any of my services. So that way I could access it through an app instead of going through something to then get jettisoned to an app, which I understand is how it's working a lot of the cases. Where It's like, so I was listening to a podcast today where they were saying the reasoning behind that is apparently because of the negotiations they had to make with the other companies, these other platforms. Because the Warner media empire is now divided by two dads, essentially. You have Dad AT&T over here and Dad Warner over here, because AT&T wants to make deals with the platforms, but Warner wants to make deals with the content, like the content companies. Those two like are at odds with each other. And it seems like so AT&T wanted basically to make a deal with your Spectrums, your Comcast, to be basically like, just throw it on your existing service, so that way existing service providers will just have it. The Warner side wanted, no, we made this app. We want to make sure people see our stuff. We want to make sure that they log into our experience to get the perfect experience that we developed. So that's why apparently they had to compromise. It's insane how weird this launch was.
So is that why it's purple? Because one side wanted red and one side wanted blue?
I don't know, maybe. Compromised.
Throw them both together.
Anyways, so yeah, I like it so far. As more stuff comes out for it, I'll have more impressions. But generally speaking, it's a pretty impressive first couple weeks.
Yeah, I think as soon as we put it on, we're going to be watching the Harry Potter films on it.
They're all on there.
They're all on there.
But that's pretty much all I watched, and old baseball games on MLB Network.
Yeah, I'm just mainly looking forward to like all the commentary stuff on it that I can watch and listen to.
Yeah.
Yes, call me a nerd. I love it. The chat has spoken. I'm a nerd on it.
Anyway. But yeah, so the HBO Max stuff is the only thing I watched. Like I said, besides old baseball games on MLB Network. I watched one of the games of the 2001 World Series.
Yeah, don't worry. I mean, we were watching the 2002 Angels World Series like 3 weeks ago.
Hell yeah. Anyway, let's move on to cancellations and renewals.
All right. What am I no longer watching?
All right. Well, Stars decided that you're not done with Step Up High Water because they're renewing it for the 3rd season. Is this like Step Up the movie?
Yes, this was Step Up High Water, which was a YouTube original,
Uh-huh.
and then got canceled after 2 seasons, but is now
Okay.
moving its way to Stars for a 3rd season.
Got it. Hey, you'd be happy to know that Disney Plus's Diary of a Future President is getting renewed for a 2nd season.
Yep, 10 episodes, 2nd season. Looking forward to that.
However, on Netflix, Astronomy Club fans, all 3 of you, are sad to learn that it's been canceled after 1 season.
Oh no.
All right, now go into deaths quite a bit this week, and not for the reasons why you might imagine.
No, but this, some of these carried over from last week, which we didn't get to. But
yeah, we didn't have last week.
Yeah.
First up, Peggy Pope, age 91, an actress, was in 9 to 5, Colucci's Department, in The Last Starfighter. Mary Pat Gleason, age 70, actress as well, was in Guiding Light and Mom, among others, and was an Emmy winner in 1986. Chris Trousdale, age 34, an actor and singer, was a member of Dream Street. Remember Dream Street?
Yes, it was all just a dream. Street.
They had a song that was also named Dream Street.
Mm-hmm.
That I remember hearing a lot on Radio Disney.
I knew you were going to go there.
In the early 2000s. The only thing I remember of it is that the chorus ended, "Down on Dream Street." That's all I remember.
Well, that's all you need to know, because that's their name. It's down on Dream Street.
Dream Street.
So the advertising worked.
Yeah, the advertising worked. Who knew? Next up, Joey Image, age 63, a drummer for the Misfits. Bobby Morrow, age 84, a 3 times Olympic gold medal sprinter.
Yeah, he won. He was a sprinter who won the gold medal 3 times at the 1956 Olympics.
56. Robert Wayton, age 112. If that seems high, that's because he was the world's oldest man as of February 2020. And of course, as most world's oldest people do, they passed away.
It's like that record's cursed or something.
Yeah, or something. I don't know. Somebody's got to look into that. It's conspiracy, I swear. And lastly, Lenny Niehaus, age 90, a saxophonist and film composer. Worked on Unforgiven, Space Cowboys, and The Bridges of Madison County.
Yep.
So there you go. Moving on into the world of music, and I hand it over to you.
And we always start music with the Billboard charts, and we start the Billboards with the Hot 100. And guess who's atop the 100 list?
It happened.
It happened. The ads worked as Rain on Me by Lady Gaga. But really, I want to say it's Ariana Grande.
It's both. They both have a verse on it.
Yeah, it's a good song too.
That's why it's an and, not a featuring.
Right. Yeah, Rain on Me, your number 1 song this week.
Yeah, it's catchy.
Yep. That bumps number 2, Savage by Megan Thee Stallion, but really it's Beyonce. Number 3, Rockstar by Da Baby, but really it's with Roddy Ricch. Number 4, Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, moving back up in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually The Weeknd. Because at number 5, it's Say So by Doja Cat, but really it's Nicki Minaj. There's a lot of features on this list.
It's not how all features work, by the way. That was funny when it was Drake.
Well, because Drake was the sole cause of it. Do you agree?
I mean, Drake is the cause of a lot of things. All right, what's our Billboard 200, our albums chart look like?
All right, as for your albums chart, your Billboard 200, Wanna, Gonna, Shoulda, Woulda, Maybe Coulda, I don't know, but that's what happens. Number 1 is Wanna by Gunna.
And the artist is Gunna.
Yes, Wanna, the album by Gunna. Number 2, My Turn by Lil Baby. Getting a little bump there.
A baby bump?
A little baby bump. At number 3, High Off Life by Future. At number 4, Notes on a Conditional Form by the 1975, which you talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
And at number 5, The Goat by Polo G.
So yeah, some familiar faces, but a couple of new ones.
Yeah. And if you didn't like any of those albums, well, we have some new releases.
Yes, we do.
All right. First up, we have Planets Mad by Bauer. Yes, that Bauer. Harlem Shake Bauer.
Yes.
Number 2, What's Your Pleasure by Jesse Ware.
Where?
There.
Oh.
At number 2. Why did I say at number 2? Oh, yeah.
These are not ranked.
We also have Goons Be Gone by No Age. Sideways to New Italy by Rolling Blackouts Coastal Fever.
It's a long name.
Yes. Although, is Sideways to New Italy basically the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
Maybe. I don't know. You have to ask Rolling Blackouts Coastal Fever. Which,
I would, but I don't think they'll get my call because of the Rolling Blackouts Coastal Fever.
I was talking to a friend of the show, Christy, yesterday, and she made a joke. I forget what the context was, but she made a joke about Rolling Blackouts Coastal Fever. And I was like, wow, I'm glad that you're talking to me because I'm the only one who would get that. And then she was like, yeah, they talked about them, a lot of them on NPR. Like, yeah, sounds about right.
That's where you would have heard them.
Anyway.
Anyways, we also have RTJ4 by Run the Jewels.
What a time for a new Run the Jewels record. Could not be better timing.
Which crystal ball did they pick that one out of?
Right? Yeah. Killer Mike knew something. You know he did.
Speaking of in the news, Killer Mike.
Right, yes.
And also we have All Things Being Equal by Sonic Boom. Yep. Moving on into music news. We're back with Warner Music.
It's a little update, and it's a crossover with one of our favorite recurring stories.
Oh, you mean Tencent Holdings?
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese company that holds basically everything and shouldn't, but does? Huh. Well, Tencent Holdings is in talks to buy a stake in Warner Music Group as part of the record company's initial public offering, or IPO. The paper, Wall Street Journal, cited, quote, people familiar with the matter as saying the Chinese internet giant is discussing an investment of $200 million ahead of Warner Music Group's IPO offering, which, as we know, is announced to take place next week. Warner Music Group is also lining up other potential partners that could serve as anchor investors along with Tencent, which would contribute in excess of $1 billion towards a fundraising goal as much as $1.8 billion, which, as we noted 2 weeks ago, that they were looking at an initial offering of, was it $2.8 billion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More or less.
So they're basically, by going public, they're already going to recuperate half of that money.
Yeah. I mean, this is how it works, right? I mean, this is what happens every time this happens, which is giant investing companies like get involved so that way they can make some of those costs up before they potentially lose it on the market going public.
Well, what's going to happen is that they're going to make the sales now and then probably short them over the course of the week because it'll go down after the initial IPO's offer is done. But hey, at least some people will make money, you know. Maybe not the right people or people who need the money, but some people will make money.
Oh, what a bleak sentence to say this week.
Some people will make money. What's our motto? It's a business?
Yeah, I guess so. This feels extra dirty this week. Anyway, speaking of which.
Oh, is it cleaner than the other phrase, profits over people?
Oh, don't even. Nope. Nope. Not the time.
Nope.
Not the time. Okay, well, now a segue to our next.
That's a good segue right to our next story, isn't it? Well, as you mentioned somewhere at the top of this podcast, I
Yeah.
think, Blackout Tuesday was it's as part of the music industry's Blackout Tuesday protest against racism. Spotify and SiriusXM will go silent in symbolic moments of silence to acknowledge the death of George Floyd. Audio streaming giant Spotify, as part of Blackout Tuesday's initiatives, is including an 8-minute, 46-second track of silence on select playlists and podcasts. That is meant, quote, as a solemn acknowledgement for the length of time that George Floyd was suffocated. Sirius XM, meanwhile, on June 2nd at 3 p.m., so yesterday,
Yeah. This all
uh,
happened yesterday.
yes, will silence all music channels for 3 minutes. According to a memo, Sirius XM CEO Jim Meyer sent to employees, the pause includes, quote, 1 minute to reflect on the terrible history of racism, 1 minute in observance of this tragic moment in time, and 1 minute to hope for and demand a better future, end quote.
So, a lot to unpack here. So the
Where's the
Blackout
gift?
Tuesday thing.
It's something.
So yeah, it's something. Sure, you could say that. So the Blackout Tuesday kind of movement started with, I guess, some of the bigger record labels. I guess the statement they were trying to make originally had said what the plan was is that the music industry, basically artists, the major labels, the major artists on those labels, were going to not tweet anything, not promote any of their music. There was going to be a blackout of any promotion happening from their artists on Tuesday. That was kind of the first salvo of this was shot out, and initially the reaction to that was pretty poor. It seemed like most of the musicians and people in the industry that I followed were basically saying this is stupid. They should be using the day for using their platform to actually promote the movements, to donate to the funds, to like spread the word about where to donate and how to help. To be silent for a day doesn't, like, in kind of the guise of taking a moment to reflect, doesn't actually do anything like for the movement. It doesn't actually support the movement.
Thoughts and
uh,
prayers.
then yeah, exactly, it's very much the hopes and prayers thing. um, then it kind of escalated by this movement that who knows where the origin of this was, where people were encouraged to put a black square or a black profile picture or a black JPEG, just a black picture, basically just the color black, on their social media networks. And this started, I guess, through this kind of Blackout Tuesday movement. And again, in theory, that's cool, I guess, where it's like, oh, we're showing solidarity. But two, you could be using that space to actually advance some sort of movement or pay towards some sort of end goal. And then to make matters worse, people who were using those pictures and using the hashtags for the movements, including Black Lives Matter, basically that was all people in the Black Lives Matter hashtag were seeing, were those black squares, which was prohibiting people who were actually using it for updates about protests could not actually find information. So it was a big problem. So like activists had to very quickly tweet to their followers, hey, please like delete those posts because we can't see jack shit out here. We can't see information that we need to see about the where like presence of police or like, changing curfew times, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that are happening by the minute. So this Blackout Tuesday thing, even though it came from a good place, ended up causing a lot of more issues than it was needed at the end of the day. And so yeah, it's just, that's why kind of when I was talking about the story above about the Viacom CBS thing is always maybe like take bigger movements that are started by these corporations, that are started by these brands, with a grain of salt, because they're not the ones on the front lines of this movement. They're not the ones that are actually out there and supporting what actually needs to be done in the moment. They're big picture movements that I think are obfuscating the smaller change that needs to actually happen. So yeah, that's at least what I would say, is that these bigger brand movements are maybe a distraction, and who you should actually be following on social media and following their advice are the, hey, I don't know, the black people that are at the protests. What do you know? I mean, who would have guessed, right?
Yeah, I mean, people like John Boyega, who's out
Yes.
there
Now, John
protesting.
Boyega, he's doing such a bang up job on social media this week about really giving it to those racists out there. He's been crazy to watch.
Yeah,
But
but he's not music, though.
no, he's not.
No, he's an actor.
But you know what I'm saying. Like,
Yes.
so yeah, I don't know how I feel about the Spotify and the Sirius XM stuff. Like, it's cool, but you know what would have been cooler is if, for example, Spotify donated a bunch of money to black artists, for example. Or what if Spotify had done what Bandcamp is doing, which is they're going to do a day where their Bandcamp's portion of the sales on their site will go towards funds.
Hmm.
Spotify could have easily done something like that. They could have been like, "Oh,
Well, they
our
could just, I mean, easily set up a playlist of,
Mhm.
hey, listen to this playlist. Every minute listened
Yeah,
is X amount
yes,
towards, causes.
exactly." The thing is that if you're not giving money to the cause, like taking a big block of time out of somebody's playlist is actually doing the artists a disservice, not helping them. It's backwards. I don't know. Anyway, that's how
Yeah, I
I
think
felt
you're
about the
talking
whole
about
thing.
lip service there.
Yeah, exactly. It's giant lip service. It's giant, like, we want to. It's performative allyship, is what it is.
Right. It's trying to be on the right side
Yeah,
in words and in action,
yeah.
but not necessarily in what matters and
It's like, yeah,
how
like,
how it counts.
and I get it. I get it's tough. I 100% get it's tough. Like, I had a moment on Monday where I was like, I either sit here and try to, retweet people that I think are saying the right thing, and try to talk to people I know about, like, how I'm framing everything that's happening. But I still felt guilty, and I had a moment where I was like, there's only one thing I can do. So I had the privilege of last week having some of my vacation time paid off by my employer, because they realized that with 3 months, potentially more of the year being basically completely moot as for using time off,
Hmm.
they were like, hey, do you want us to just pay you out? And so I was like, yeah, pay me out 40 hours. So I got a generous payout. And so I used all of it, and I donated all of it.
Nice.
I
Yeah, they're
donated all of it to the
forwarding
local.
hours to next year.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we are probably not going to have that luxury. So
Well, I'm gonna need to use it next year because yeah, we did talk to you off podcast, but yeah,
we'll get there
weddings galore. But
post
you're
pod.
right. I did have that kind of the same
Yeah.
moment over the past couple days. I actually went and looked up Jane Elliott and her study of brown eyes, blue eyes
Mhm.
experiment. And yeah, through like I watched two of them back to back. One was a British one, and then one was done with college students. And about like 10 minutes into the British one, because it was adults, they were kind of like attacking it. And I was like, okay, I can see why they're doing this. I can see the problem. But when
Mhm.
I watched the college one right after it with college students, it hit me harder. I think
Mhm.
I was like, oh, like I'm actually like hearing it now. I'm actually making. I can physically see myself like making dots and connections
Yes.
to between the experiment and like what you hear, yeah, like in real life,
Hmm.
that was like hitting me
Yeah.
pretty good.
And that's a good point that you brought up, because education is also, this is actually a really important moment for education. What I've seen a lot of Black activists on social media specifically say about this moment is it's not enough to just be like not racist. You have to learn and practice anti-racism, and part of that is educating on, like, by reading Black authors, by reading experiments like that just like show like these are the actual functions of these biases.
Right, and that was part of Jane Elliott's thesis that no one is born racist, no one is born
Yeah,
bigoted. It's something that you learn, and
it's a
anything that
social
you
construct.
can learn, you can unlearn.
Indeed, indeed. And so yeah, education, like constantly educate, and not just in this moment either. Like that's another thing that's important to stress. It's like it's a constant thing that's going to continue far after these protests end. So anyways, we've gone around probably 30 minutes on this topic now, so let's move on.
Well, I mean, we're done with music. We just have to talk about actual albums.
Yes, we listened to a couple of things. I listened to one of these things that you listened to.
Yes, I listened to the surprise thing that I didn't know was going to happen, but hey, it happened.
Yeah, I didn't
Also,
even
I
know
don't know
that.
if we want to count it as an album because it's an EP.
We can talk about EPs. It's not ruled
All
out.
right, so Midland,
Yeah, talk about Midland. So
real,
you love.
real briefly. Give me like 2 minutes because this thing is
Yeah.
brief because it's Midland. It's called Guitars, Couches, etc., etc., and it's an acoustic album, and not
Okay.
an acoustic album of new stuff, an acoustic album of their hits.
Okay.
So if you
It's an
like their
unplugged
songs,
session.
huh?
It's like an MTV unplugged.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you like Midland and you like their songs and you like the lyrics of their songs, this is the album for you. And that's pretty much it.
Cool. All right. Cool.
It's their hits. It's a drinking song or drinking problems, 14 Gears, Mr. Lonely, stuff off their new stuff and their the first two albums that are basically like the hits that you know Midland of, but just broken down into acoustic form.
That sounds great.
So it's fun. It's
Yeah.
good. I like it.
Cool.
But there's a bigger album that came out this
Yeah.
past week.
Speaking of fun and good.
Lady Gaga. Yeah, that's good. What's fun and
Right.
good?
Yes. So
Chromatica.
Chromatica is out. You can listen to it. It's available. What did you think?
Love the production on this thing.
Oh yeah.
Holy hell. Like, I thought I liked Dua Lipa's production, which I still do, but yeah, this thing feels like it's on another level.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And like another level in a good way too. Like this is clearly refined production. I can see why they wanted to make this thing a big event because this is a really big album. This is disco album. This is classic Lady Gaga. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's new Lady Gaga.
Yeah, it's a return to form. I think a lot of people, when Joanne, her last record came out, people were like, this isn't what I expected. It didn't really have as many of those like dancey club songs on it. It had a little bit more of a ballad edge.
Right. And then she went on and she did A Star is Born.
Born stuff, which was even more kind of a ballad edge, with maybe a little mix of a couple of the more popular stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this, though, yeah, you're right. It's a return to the Gaga we knew. Just like, hey, like these are a bunch of songs that you can play at the club. Not too dissimilar to, as you mentioned, that Dua Lipa record that came out this year. And that's kind of my takeaway of this whole thing is I feel like in the time between Joanne and now, I think she took a step back and she was listening. And I think she was taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
Because throughout this record, you can hear little bits and pieces of contemporary pop artists. You can hear a little bit of Dua Lipa. I have a strong suspicion. I told this to a friend of the show, Christy, after I listened to Chromatica for the first time. I was like, I have a strong suspicion that she would have not gone so hard on this kind of music again if Dua Lipa hadn't been the surprise smash.
I believe that, yeah.
I think that the fact that she had like those number one singles, like I think opened the door back up again for that kind of dance pop. Because I think there was a while where it wasn't viable anymore. Like nobody was making that music anymore.
Well, I mean, look at what was dominating the headlines with Billie Eilish
Yeah.
and uh, Drake.
And even before that, even before Billie Eilish and before Dua
And
Lipa,
Ariana Grande too. Like Sweetener
yeah,
wasn't a huge dance pop album.
even Ariana was making something kind of different with Sweetener and Thank You Next. It wasn't
Mhm.
exactly the Lady Gaga or Dua Lipa style. It was somewhere kind of more in that Max Martin kind of wheelhouse.
Right.
This though is very much towards that dance hall kind of feel. And yeah, I think she's also been taking some notes from Carly Rae Jepsen on a few of these songs. You can definitely hear some Carly-esque takes going on with both her vocals and like the choruses.
Hmm.
And of course, friend of the show, Christy, our resident pop expert, was very quick to point out that she also thinks there's a lot of Kylie Minogue and Madonna references throughout, including album closer Babylon, which is basically Vogue. It's basically Lady Gaga doing Vogue, which is like, hey, if anybody's going to do a take on Vogue, it's Lady Gaga, right? I mean,
Yeah.
goes to show you. But yeah, no, I thought it was really excellent. I thought that there's a lot of highlights. Not a lot of low points. I can't really think of any particular song I didn't care for.
No.
Um,
Thousand Doves though I liked right before the
yeah,
closer.
yeah. It's a 1-2 punch right there. I think
Yep.
certainly. And yeah, it's quality. It's quality. I think this is definitely going to be seen as her comeback. This is definitely, and I think if it wasn't, yeah, if you're right, you're right. I think if it wasn't for everybody being stuck at home, I think this would have been a really big deal.
Okay. Well, I think that's why they wanted to delay it because this felt like, hey, we need to get you out in, like I said, in front of SNL, in front of Good Morning America,
That
in
being said,
front
I'm
of
glad. I'm glad though that
something.
it ended up putting it out because, as I said way back on the episode where we talked about her delay, I was like, "There's no reason. There's the fans need this now more than ever," and I think that it was good timing for the people who need it.
Oh, no, I'm not saying you're wrong on that. I'm just saying that from a marketing standpoint, from a business aspect,
Right, right, right.
it would
It would have been
definitely
everywhere.
help that and it
You
would
would
have
have
been
been
better.
sick of Gaga. She would have been everywhere, and you would have been like, yeah, you couldn't avoid her.
Right.
But interesting. Who knows though? Like alternate universe talk can only go so far.
It's okay. I mean, they kind of ran those Apple commercials. Was
Yeah,
it like, was it Apple? Siri? Alexa? It was Alexa.
I don't remember.
With Lady Gaga's Rain on Me
Because
playing with the lips.
they could make those ads all day long.
Yeah, they can.
Anyway,
Anyway, so we're both in unison then?
yeah.
Chromatica. Good, good,
Excellent.
good album.
Yeah, this is a good year for pop.
Oh, yeah. I was surprised it's going to be a good year for pop. I was
Yeah,
not expecting
out of
that.
nowhere. Who knew? Even the ones you didn't like the Charlie XCX record. Anyway,
Anyways, let's move on to video games here.
let's talk about some video games.
All right. We have new releases this week. Command and Conquer Remastered Collection for the PC.
Yes.
The Outer Worlds for the Switch.
Yeah.
The Sims 4, Eco Lifestyle for the PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Speaking of Lance Armstrong, Tour de France 2020 for the PlayStation and Xbox.
France.
The Dark Eye, Book of Heroes for the PC. And Ys, Memories of Celesta for PlayStation.
Yep.
The Ys or Ys?
I think it's East. I think you were right the first time.
All right. And lastly, a game that I will be picking up this week because it is a social game. Clubhouse Games, 51 Worldwide Classics for the Switch, coming out tomorrow. Oh, no,
Yes,
not tomorrow, Friday.
you mentioned this last week how you were excited to pick this one up when it came out.
Yes. I think that second to last trailer, when it showcased all the games, I was like, wow, there's a lot in this. And then I saw the price point at $40. I'm like, yeah, that's a good one, party game, 2, social game, 3, new things to play with people.
Yeah.
And also, you only need one person to own it to
Right.
hook it up to other people who have Switches.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I had the original Clubhouse games on the DS.
Oh,
I
okay.
still have it floating around somewhere, but yeah, it seems like the Switch is the right platform to resurrect that series on.
Yep, it's really good.
Okay,
Uh, okay. Actual video game news, or
rolling into
rather,
news. Lack
unnews,
thereof.
lacking news.
Yeah, exactly. Like not news, lack thereof news, because there was going to be news this week.
Oh, there was going to be news, and I was going to be so excited for it because there
Yeah.
was a planned PlayStation 5 streaming event set for tomorrow,
Yep.
but had to be canceled in light of the Black Lives Matter protests taking place
Yes.
nationwide. New games were expected to be announced alongside new footage and actual gameplay footage.
Yep.
EA also delayed the official unveiling of Madden NFL 21 following protests across the United States over the death of George Floyd. The game's first trailer emerged last month and was due to be revealed on June 1st. That will no longer take place. Quote, "We had committed to celebrating Madden NFL 21 with you, but we're not going to do that now," said EA in a statement. That, quote, "We stand with our African American Black communities of friends, players, colleagues, and partners. Our immediate attention is on actions we can take to drive change against the unjust treatment and systemic bias that is plaguing the nation and our world." It is of note that they already announced the cover of Madden NFL 21 to be Teddy Bridgewater,
Mhm.
the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens.
Right. So yeah, I think it makes sense for them to wait, especially Sony. I
Yes.
understand that the other impetus for their delay is because George Floyd's memorial service is also tomorrow afternoon, and that would probably have been in bad taste if they had gone ahead with the stream.
Right. But also, this is supposed to be, what was it, Future Games
Yeah.
look, and then that got delayed as well.
Yes.
Which, as I said, I think these will all be delayed
Yep.
probably if a week, if not 2 weeks,
I would guess.
when
Yeah.
E3 was originally supposed to take place.
Yeah. I would guess we see a lot of this stuff come back up next week, because yeah, everything that I'm seeing is being pushed to this weekend or later. So
Yeah. But with that being said, that means stuff is literally around the corner. As we've been talking about with Xbox, that the next generation is practically here. It's just Sony who needs to say, "Hey, here is the new console. Here's the price point. Here are the games." And there's been lists floating around of like 38 to 40 games for like the first 3 months of its release.
yeah, that could be pretty exciting.
So yeah, this is really look for, especially if some of the rumors are true, like PS3 and 4 games being able to play on the PS5. I know
That'd
that's a
be pretty cool.
huge rumor, but we don't deal in rumors, so I'm not going
Yeah,
to say that.
God forbid.
No, I'm not going to say other stuff like the USB charging port or the SSD is the soul of it. No, no, we can't say that because those are rumors.
So we'll see as they kind of announce if they announce a follow-up date for this to actually take place. But yeah, overall, good on them for leaving space for what is a priority right now.
Yep. This is also a part of like a lot of companies moving things out of the way to focus national attention,
Yeah,
as we've mentioned before
yeah,
throughout this podcast.
indeed.
Yep. But that is not The Last of Us, though,
Ha 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 ha.
as The Last of Us Part 2 is our second news story.
It is coming very quickly.
It's in like a couple weeks now.
Yeah, a couple
Or
weeks away
is it?
from Last of Us.
The Last of Us 2, Last of Us Part 2, is Naughty Dog's most accessible game ever, thanks to dozens of granular accessibility settings, some of which totally overhaul the way the game is presented. Lead gameplay designer Emilia Schatz,
Shots, shots,
Shots,
shots, shots, shots, shots.
Emilia Schatz And lead systems designer Matthew Gallant discussed the game's accessibility options with The Verge. Schott says that Naughty Dog focused more on accessibility after receiving a letter from an Uncharted 2 fan who couldn't finish a part of the game due to a button mashing QuickTime event. But while later Uncharted games integrated more options, The Last of Us 2 is on a whole nother level for the studio. Quote from Shots: accessibility for us is about removing barriers that are keeping players from completing a game. It's not about dumbing down a game or making a game easy. What do players need in order to play the game in parity with everyone else? So that is interesting that you're not going to basically dumb down a game, but give people other options.
Yeah, I think what's happened a lot in the discourse around difficulty settings and accessibility options is that people are finally realizing, and game developers are finally realizing, that it does not make your game worse to make it like accessible to others.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to be like freaking pro gamer. You don't have to be ninja in order to beat a game anymore, which is good because, yeah, there's probably plenty of people out there who just want to enjoy the story of The Last of Us 2 and want to like live in that world for a while. I'm not one of them right now, let me tell you. But if I was, like, I would want the ability to do that even if I didn't have, say, the skill to pass like a really tough boss or something like that. And I think, yeah, I think the people who are like complaining like, oh, accessibility options makes stuff easier for babies are missing the point entirely. It's like it's not about a game, especially as narrative driven as The Last of Us, is not meant to be a challenge. It's not about challenge. It's about the story they're telling. The challenge dovetails into that story and helps it tell the narrative better because it reminds you, oh, this would be really hard to do. But if you're stuck in it, it just gets annoyed. You just get annoyed with it. Like,
I know that God of War took some of that away, where instead of button mashing to get through the level, you could press and hold instead of button mash.
yeah.
And I think that's what it means by accessibility, not we're going to dumb this down so boss fights are easier for you. It's in terms of gameplay.
Well, I mean, it's a combination of those two things.
Yeah.
Those are two things that are kind of in the same kind of category. It's what I was talking about, and then also what you're talking about, which is people who are literally physically unable to do these things, which is another very important thing that I think developers are getting better at.
Right. I know Xbox created the gamepad.
Yes, that
which is
that
customizable for different people.
Exactly, and hopefully that probably did a good job of showing people all over. It's like, no, it's like there's other solutions out there beyond just traditional gameplay that can help people who traditionally haven't been able to play these games play them and enjoy them.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Siri. Apparently Siri cares about accessibility options.
Yes, Siri does.
Anyways,
The Last of Us Part 2 is due out June 20. Huh?
Yeah, weeks away.
Yeah, June 19th. 2 weeks, I believe. Right?
So, are you gonna play it?
I'm not sure yet. I know I will play it, but real briefly, while we're on topic of Sony and Last of Us, Sony is doing Days of Play currently.
Yeah.
Games, $20 and under.
Yeah.
New games galore, 200 games are all discounted now. So go take a look at those. But yeah, it's on my calendar head to buy it. Currently doing Legos, which I know some people who are really sick of me playing Legos. I just don't know if going into something as heavy as The Last of Us is totally the right option to do that.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing, and that's what I'm grappling with, because like I loved the first game, but man, the timing could not be worse for me. Like, I feel like that's not the headspace I want to be in.
Right. I downloaded The Last of Us Remastered because it came to us on PS Plus a while ago. So I downloaded it 2 months ago. as part of my, hey, I'm going to play this game because I know the next game's coming out. And then they delayed it. They first announced the first delay, or second or third delay, whatever it is, from May to June. And I was like, okay, so I guess I don't need to play it now. And then every time I think I want to go back to it, I can't get to that headspace of, I know this is going to be a pretty depressing game. That's something that I kind of want to be in, but also like, yeah, that story though, while it's a really good story, that's not saying it's a bad story or like anything like that.
But it's like,
it's a very immersive story.
But yeah, but it's the question, of course, then is this the time? Like,
Right.
So I don't know. It's complicated, but I think they'll have done a good job on it and think people will enjoy it. But yeah, I wonder how many people maybe put it on the shelf for a while and then come back to it once.
We'll probably come back to when people start talking about Game of the Year stuff.
Yeah, I imagine, yeah, this will be something that probably people are like catching up on in November.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we'll wait and see. I guess one of us should play it, though, for the podcast's sake.
Well, I'm playing Clubhouse Games 51.
Yes. Actual Game of the Year Clubhouse Games. Media Boat Podcast Game of the Year Clubhouse Games. I'm calling it right now. No, I'm not actually calling it. That's stupid. Anyway, no, let's be real. It's Animal Crossing. Anyways.
Yes, also a game both of us have played.
Anyways, but that's it, right, for video games? Did you play any video games this week?
Nope. I've been playing Lego. I got pretty much all the bricks. I'm going back through and cleaning up stuff. Still taking a while because those games are designed to take a long time.
Yes.
I have hit a point, though, where I need to look up stuff to complete the game. Mm-hmm. But I'm doing everything else that I can do before I get that point. Do all that extra cleanup. But I have hit that point of, okay, I need to do all this extra stuff in the sandbox universe in order to unlock stuff to finish the things that I can't do right now. But there are also stuff that I need to like look up and find, okay, where exactly does it want me to go? Where am I actually doing this? But right now I'm going through and completing all the story missions so I can get to that and just be like the last things. And I should have all that completed by the time Last of Us 2 comes out.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, I already
You've
said
been playing baseball?
Yeah, I already said that I played baseball, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
I think that does it for us then.
All righty. Well, thank you for joining us then for this episode of the Media Boat Podcast. We'll be back for hopefully a happier and less depressing episode next week, where we will still be marooned until further notice. If you want to watch our faces, you can see a recorded version of this show on YouTube by going to our YouTube channel. This is also where you can see me stream some baseball. I am going to, from now on, do my video game streaming on YouTube instead of Twitch because the Twitch connection to Amazon kind of weirds me out right now. So yeah, I'm going to probably stick to the YouTube for my streaming. So that's where you can find both our archive of these video versions of our podcasts and archive versions of our video games. So go check out youtube.com, search Media Boat Podcast, and find our page. You can also find our podcast in audio form via Apple Podcasts or similarly RSS feed-driven podcast services. You can catch us on social media networks like Twitter on Twitter at MediaBoatCast, Facebook. Although probably after this week, probably shouldn't be using Facebook anymore. But I'll discuss that with you after the pod. And you can also find us on things like, Twitch TV, twitch.tv/MediaBoat, where you can see archived versions of Mike's streams. And you can find us on the email, I guess, at mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. I mean, I don't really know if there's anything else to promote.
Nope. Just Media Boat Podcast and you'll find us.
So
Google it.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week because, of course, we will. We never leave. We never stop recording.
Nope.
So
Never. All right. And with that, we'll be back next week with more thoughts and news and stuff.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.